everyone, please help yourself to eat some more and grab some more food. And this is the discussion portion of Maluhia Movie Nights. We are now being live fed and filmed, so if you don't feel safe, speaking, I'm just letting you know. We will have questions at the end, if you have any questions for the panelists. That film. I'm speechless. But we'll start with the panelists. Just introduce yourself. If you have a few words, something you want to share, but maybe if you can share if you've been, I think a couple of our panelists have been to the West Bank, near where this village was. Anything you want to share? Just if we can go one by one. Just introduce whatever you feel safe sharing. Thank you.
Hello. Oh, my name is Dottie, and in the past 2 years, I spent 4 months. The past year, I spent 4 months in the West Bank with the International Solidarity Movement. And just a comment about the film, as difficult as it was to watch, it brings to mind just like how much footage is needed to make movements. I don't know, it makes me think of that.
Hi there, my name is Ashley. I also spent only 1 month in the West Bank, but huge honor and challenge. And I too went with the International Solidarity Movement that has picked up more acclaim, not even acclaim, but it's gotten on the radar a bit more in recent months. And yeah, it's fascinating. This film we just watched was from 20 years ago, and it's just wild to consider that this continues to occur, and it's been documented so very much, and yeah, so much is needed. Feeling a little quite a bit heavy after witnessing all of this, as I'm sure all of you are, all of us. I'll keep this moving down the line.
Can we just do a quick moment of silence, because I know that film was very heavy. So while you're seated, just close your eyes and just feel. Thank you. My name is Odeh. I was born and raised in the Haitian refugee camp, a few towns away from Bil'in. I've spent a lot of time in Bil'in. I was there in 2009, and unfortunately, it's not a unique situation. This is the daily life in Palestine.
Hi everyone, my name is Fatima, and I am half Palestinian, half Puerto Rican. I have family in West Bank and I have family in East Gaza. I run an organization called Rise for Palestine here on Oahu, and I'm also an uncommitted delegate for Hawaii 107 with the Uncommitted Movement from last year, which tried to convince Kamala Harris to call for a ceasefire. So I'm really grateful that this event was put together. I'm grateful for everybody for being here. So thank you guys so much, and for everybody that volunteered. And I'm just very grateful for everyone wanting to learn more about Palestine and wanting to know how you can help. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Okay, if you can I'll tell the question, and if you can repeat the question when you answer the question.
Okay, sure.
And Raquel put the questions together, so. Okay, so the first question is, what are the daily realities of life under occupation for Palestinians right now, particularly in the West Bank and Gaza?
I think that the film showed a lot of what you can expect, but it being older, just imagine more restrictions. Weekly protests don't happen in a lot of places where weekly protests did happen. I was fortunate enough to go to 4 different protests while I was in the West Bank. One at Kafakajum, which no longer was holding protests when I left there, and 3 at Beta, and an American was shot in the head and killed at one of these protests, not while I was there, like 2 weeks later. And it's very similar to what you saw there, except there's like no fanfare, there's not like banners and stuff like that, more restriction as far as that goes. And it's essentially men and boys will pray on Friday, and then the army will advance upon them with tear gas and sound grenades and live ammunition. And my job, or the reason why I was there, was to stand in solidarity. So if they're shooting at Palestinians and I'm standing there in solidarity, they're also shooting at me. And the hope is to deter some of this violence, but I think the film did a really good job of showing that nonviolence as a tactic doesn't make violence leave, that the violence just kind of comes to the Palestinians. And it's very specific that it's settlers, soldiers, police bringing violence, Palestinians trying to exist.
Can you say the name of the film? Just a thought on the film.
Oh, the film we watched today was called 5 Broken Cameras. And I really loved that it showed the samud, the steadfastness of the Palestinians in the film.
I'll add on to that just a couple of things. Even when things aren't the most extreme, as we witnessed in this, daily life under occupation, from what I witnessed while I was there, is a lot of just harassment and terrorizing from settlers who will post up and build their settlements nearby and attempt to displace Palestinians on the land, as we've all seen. But and in the film, if you were streaming this live from home and didn't catch this film, it's a lot of acts like lighting the olive trees on fire or contaminating wells, breaking up roads to make it more difficult for people to accomplish daily tasks. Soldiers coming in, doing raids on villages, or traipsing through Palestinian land on horseback with assault rifles slung across their bodies. Just so very much. And that's the low grade. That's like the lower end of the terrorizing. So I'll keep passing. Some of our work going with the International Solidarity Movement is to document, to do exactly what this what this man was recording on his cameras, which should only have been doing taking home videos. But yeah, we're there to document, and as we saw from this film, the settlers and soldiers hate when there is a camera in their faces, kind of capturing the truth. Anything that exposes the truth of what they're doing, they are quite reactive to. But yeah, that's why it becomes all the more important to keep exposing this. All right, I'm gonna wrap up, pass this down.
Okay, so I was born and raised under occupation, and to answer your question, a lot of things come to mind, of course. But I think one thing worth sharing is that we all know that when life's fragility is touched, it becomes a bit more valuable. We all have lost our phones and realized that, wow, I rely so much on this, and when you find it, you feel a lot of value to it. It almost feels like that, being under this constant threat of death. Your life feels very fragile and you start to really value every single second of it. That's the most probably prominent memory I have growing up as a child in a camp, is that you cling on to life as much as possible, and your land becomes the most valuable thing you own. And that's why we see that resilience in fighting for it. We see that a lot here in Hawaii, fighting for our mountains and your oceans and waters and the sacredness of these spaces. That's something that colonial entities will never be able to understand, because to them it's just another real estate project, it's another monetary source. But to us it's life itself, and so you grow up on the land and it teaches you to fight for it, because the land is why you're here and the land is why you will leave here. The second thing is also that creates a lot of beauty, and so you see a sense of community that's unlike any other place. And that's because of, not despite of the horror that you experience, but because of it. A sense of unity is born, and a sense of beauty bonds everybody together.
That's okay.
To share a short anecdote, bouncing off of that, I was in Ramallah and I noticed that this mall had all of its merchandise still in the hallways of the mall. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, the mall was closed, but we were going to a cafe that was also in the mall. And I said to my friend who was Palestinian, I was like, if this was in the US, everything would be stolen from this mall. People just leave things out. And she kind of laughed and she says, we don't have any homeless people either. And I was like, what are you talking, like I've seen 20 homes be demolished. And she said, yes, but the community makes sure that those people have homes. And this was like a big moment for me to understand this concept of like really what mutual aid and community is. So yeah, yeah. And also this moment of loss of innocence, loss of childhood that's in the moment, in the movie. I was in Palestine last summer and then had the opportunity to be there this past March, and I saw some of the same kids and the same families, and there was a definite shift even from those few months. I mean, of course they're kids, so they grow like weeds. They were much bigger, but then also there was with one kid in particular who I was kind of quite close to, he had a seriousness that he hadn't had 6 months prior. And part of my personal mission in being with these families in Palestine is to bring any kind of silliness to the moment and temporary relief in that way. So we just started making the most serious faces as we could at each other until we broke and started laughing. And I think there is a certain sweetness that comes to those moments, finding those moments in between all of the oppression.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you. Dr. Hanami Trask talks about something called righteous anger. And, you know, we get stereotyped here in Hawaii because they want to criminalize us and put us in prison as angry Hawaiians. But she talks about how it is justifiable anger, right? Because of the oppression that we have to go through as the indigenous people of Hawaii. And I always think about that because then it's kind of almost like, you think, you know, it's just it's a human response, right, to injustice and oppression. In this film, and I just wanted to see if you guys could speak to it, you didn't see a lot of anger. What you saw was like a whole array of emotions. There was joy, right? I mean, the way they celebrated those little wins, right, is as if they won the war. There was grief, there was happiness in between, there was camaraderie, there was love, there was and then there was anger too. And you would think that they would be very angry all the time with what they're facing on a daily basis. But I just wanted to, if you folks could speak to that, like, and how important. So just if you could speak to the different array of emotions that you saw these people go through in this film, and then also second part of the question is, how important is resistance? Like, what is, it's as if they're against, or they are against, like, insurmountable odds, but yet they resist, even facing, you know, violence and tanks and guns. They continue to resist. So how important is resistance? You don't have to speak to both, but I just wanted, if you guys could speak to that. Yeah, maybe Fatima could start.
That's a really good question. When you think about it, when you have nothing left, you know, almost everything has been taken away from you, and you're feeling completely helpless in a situation of the apartheid. The only thing that you have left to fight for is your land, is your home. And so what makes the resistance so powerful is that against all odds, you know, we're gonna fight for our land. We're gonna fight for the one thing that grounds us, the one thing that we can hold on to, the one thing that we can't let be taken away from us. You know, how many other places where people have died for their land? I mean, when are we gonna say enough is enough with colonialism? It's just, we cannot sit back and let these people who think they're higher powers control and dictate what we do with our lives, take things away from us and expect us to be okay with that. Kill our friends and our family members, terrorize us on a daily basis, you know, murder our children, do horrible, horrible things, torture us, And for what? For land. This all comes down to land. And I'm so sick and tired of Arabs being demonized just because people want their land. That's what this all comes down to. It has nothing to do with anything else. You have settler colonialism with the apartheid state of Israel. And guess what? They're white. This all comes down to white people wanting to take land away. And because we're brown, we're seen as less. And I'm really, really tired of that. And this is obviously a worldwide issue. But speaking specifically about Palestine, Arabs are always labeled as terrorists. What kind of movies have you seen where there's some kind of war hero and he's battling the Arab terrorist, or somebody who puts a bomb in a building happens to have an Arab name? And I'm getting really fed up with it. And so I am so glad that we are living in a way that we can be privileged enough to speak out about this, whereas my family back home cannot. And so seeing that movie and seeing those protests and seeing those people, that is extremely brave. And I think that, you know, in regards to the movie, to try to stay on topic, I know I'm a little bit off, but showing up like that, going to those protests, fighting for their land. If you remember the wife who was trying to get him to stop filming, that's a very real fear. And it does take a lot of bravery to go out there knowing that your family is at risk, to fight for future generations by protesting for your home. So I hope that answers your question. I don't know.
Thank you. Anyone else want to say anything?
I'll just quickly say that I'm so here for this sacred rage. Whew. And I believe it comes from a deep, deep well of love, and it has to be channeled somehow. And I also think that being able to express such rage can be quite a privilege, as we see often the consequence of that. Yeah, but I do know that it just comes from love and feeling so deeply, and being right, just really witnessing injustice and needing to respond to that. And I did one takeaway from this film was the idea of healing as being one of the higher forms of resistance. And that was really, yeah, that was something, healing and joy. And what I witnessed in Palestine was so many kids and families harnessing that joy and being in community and laughing and playing and living as fully as they could in, like as was mentioned, like in between the moments of escalation, but really clinging to life and celebrating it and being in it as fully as possible. Right, joy and healing as that resistance. There you go. Good timing for that one.
I want to comment on that relationship between love and anger. So I think that our love for our land will always be far greater than the anger that we have for the enemies that stole it. That does not mean that we cannot have anger. It's a part of the process for liberation. But what fuels us forward in a sustainable way is love. And if obviously you know what native lands mean, they are charged with enough love to cover the sun. And that's where you should draw your motivation to keep going forward. But anger is also a very nice edge to have, because it's a natural human response to the atrocities that we're witnessing, to the loss that we are witnessing. But the disconnection from the land means that you'll be drawing from your anger to keep going on, and that's not sustainable. If you have a good connection with the land on which your feet stand, then you'll be drawing from its love.
Thank you. Anthony Bourdain talks about how, when I was watching this film, the courage of the people, right? And he talks about how courage is made or found in Palestine. And I want to say, as an indigenous Hawaiian, as a Kanaka Maoli, there were moments where I was like, I've been there, I've had that conversation with my husband, with my children, about whether or not they agree with me still being in this movement. And there were so many parallels. Of course, nothing what the Palestinians are going through. I mean, that's even, I think the violence is so direct and so immense. There are so many of those moments, I think, for me as a Kanaka Maoli watching this. The joy of the protest, and then the grief of loss, the lease renewals. You were there, right? May 7th, Friday. We showed up, and hundreds of us, and we testified. And I mean, it was a small win, right? I mean, we won something, but I mean, we were celebrating for the whole weekend, and that just reminded me. And it was about the military leases, right? So they rejected the final EIS for the U.S. Army to renew the lease for Puhakuloa training area. And all those things were just like, it just really clicked in my head as a Kanaka Maoli, and I made all of those connections. Okay, so I want to go back to Raquel's questions. Here we go. So the next question is addressing the issue of land displacement and the significance between Palestine and Hawaii, and how do Palestinian and Hawaiian movements, so just if you can draw connections, this is a colony as well, and we are in the struggle for liberation, and or any connections you want to make between Hawaii and Palestine in terms of our struggles. Mahalo.
I just want to say about that BLNR vote, my anger was like in that room and being able to watch the Army squirm and lose was a huge victory and such a good feeling. And you best believe I told all my friends in Palestine about that moment. And that brought them hope. And that brought them this further connection. It's not something small. This is a huge thing. And being able to be in that room and was great. It was really humbling. And I think I had a moment to testify then also, and I wanted to make that connection between Palestine and Hawaii. And what stuck out to me the most is something that is covered in this film, is that someone can walk into your living room and say, this is a military fighting zone. This is my living room now. You have to leave this. And that's Pahakuloa. That's Masafuriata. That is, to me, the biggest connection that I saw specifically is that, the settler colonial project of Israel uses settlers as a form of militia. Hawaii doesn't, that I can tell, have that in that same way, but you certainly have a huge number of rich white people settling this land. You know, I drive across the highway and I say, oh, look at this settlement. We laugh about it together, but they're settlements. The army bases and all these modified homes, they're settlements. And so it is kind of different in this way that it's not as violent, but how do you measure violence? This is violent, like bombing the land, shooting the land, displacing the people, whether it be economic displacement or restricting their water or fires in Lahaina. Like, these are huge parallels.
Just a quick little story. During the Mauna Kea, I was in my camp and I was giving a tour to some foreigners and just telling them about how we have water once every 21 days on average, etc. And during our lunch break, I was on my Instagram and I saw obviously the action taking place on Mauna Kea. And I had maybe roughly 200-300 people in the group. And so I asked all the Palestinian volunteers to gather, and we all did the Mauna Kea sign. And when I explained to them why we're doing this, I just told them people are fighting for their land across the world. They had no second question. They did not question why they're doing that sign. They just showed solidarity. And if you can actually find any dissimilarities between Palestine and Hawaii, I will be waiting for that, because what is there more to connect on than land itself, that it's a physical extension of itself? This is why we're here all together as human beings, and that's why we fight together for liberation. We can't be liberated individually unless we're collectively liberated. So the mountains of Mauna Kea are as important as my original village, which me and my family were displaced from. And until both of them are freed, each of them is going to continue to be occupied.
I think that when you think about how bayonets were put against the king here, when you think about how the queen was put under house arrest for standing up for her land, you can see a lot of similarities. And the fact that the queen fought her entire life, even going to Washington, D.C., for the freedom of Hawaii, I mean, that is amazing. That is significant. That shows a lot of compassion and love for her land, for her people. And I really admire that strength and grace that she showed. And I feel like in comparison with Palestine, or similarities rather, you know, that love that the Queen had for Hawaii is the love that the Palestinian people have for their people, for their land. And they continue to fight as well. We continue to fight as well. And it sometimes has to be, you know, with like, I mean, you know, the kids throw rocks at the police trucks. But like, that is the most violence that I have seen. You're talking about the fourth strongest military in the world, the Israeli military, okay? Pretty sure they have nuclear weapons. When you think about that, big military being funded by multiple different countries, being afraid of a few rocks by kids being thrown at their police vehicles, you know, who's the violent oppressor here? And I think that, you know, in regards to violence, yes, you know, Palestinian people, they do get angry. Their land is being stolen from them. Their families are being murdered in front of them. But as you've seen in the movie, and as you know, you've watched, you know, overseas, they're mostly non-violent, because, you know, what kind of fight is this? This is not a war. This is a genocide. This is one-sided. And I think that people forget that. And I personally feel that silence will not win anything and love doesn't work anymore. But that is my opinion personally. How much love can you give? How many boundaries and walls can you drop? You know, I do feel like in order for there to be change, there needs to be some kind of action. And this can be political action, this can be people protesting, this can be people, you know, lobbying, you know, going to their leaders, at least in America. But the Palestinian people don't have that option. So you have to see it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatima. And I want to make another connection to between the oppression, the oppressors here in Hawaii and in Palestine. Hawaii is the Pacific Command Center of the, this is where they control the Pacific from. And the headquarters are here on this island, in fact. But I want to just say that we're also used as a premier training area for other countries. RIMPAC is a great example of that. RIMPAC will be returning to Hawaii next year. They were here last year. Israeli soldiers were part of that, RIMPAC. And we did do a protest in opposition to that. They are not welcome on our land. As an indigenous Hawaiian, I do not welcome Israeli soldiers to come here to train so that they can commit genocide against other indigenous peoples in Palestine. So, there's this exchange of information going on between the Israeli army and technology and weapons and money and the US military. And they're working cohesively together. Israel would not be in existence and not be doing what they're doing to Gaza if it wasn't for the billions of dollars that the US gives to them every year. So I just wanted to make also that connection that in many ways we have the same oppressor, right? And colonialism is a global sickness. It's globally oppressing 400 million indigenous peoples around the world. And that's what I think the power that we need to build now is to come together, to unite, and to form a collective resistance. But I also, one thing I want to just share, that what really caught me in this film too was when he said that care was a form of resistance, caring for oneself. And I think that's super, super important. But, I know what's going on in Gaza. If you guys can kind of share what's happening. Have they gotten aid into Gaza right now? And how many days has it been since they haven't gotten any aid into Gaza?
Now is a good time to plug Artists for Palestine. Started in San Francisco. I have some merchandise in the back. And that money goes to mutual aid directly going into the hands of 15 different Palestinian families in Gaza. I think 5 trucks were let in a couple days ago. Some people said it was 11 trucks, and a couple of those trucks were carrying death shrouds and not food. You have a wealth of Israeli settlers slashing the bags of flour as they enter, doing everything they can to stop any aid from getting in there, and then especially the United States being complicit in this. And I can't remember the figures, but they've been in blockade for over 20 years. Gaza has been, and it's been essentially an open air prison for as long. It's not okay. But when it comes to what it is that we can do, I think showing solidarity is probably the biggest thing. And when we raise money for mutual aid, it's not because we think that we are going to free Palestine. It's not because we think we're going to save someone's life. I think in a couple of circumstances we have extended lives, but I really see that fundraising and sending the money as like each dollar is a wish, is a dream, is a prayer, is a moment of solidarity. Things aren't good.
Can I ask a question? Okay, I graduated from high school in the 60s. I remember in high school that before it was Israeli or whatever, it was a country of Palestine.
Yes.
When did that change? Anybody could tell me? I just remember in the history class, it was Palestine before it was Israel.
Yes.
So my foggy mind is saying something like 1948 or something like that. That's all I can tell you about it. How it happened, I know the Jewish people and the Palestine people have never got, I mean, years and years, probably even before that, okay? But that's all I can tell you about that. So we saw in that movie, the little kids, that one little kid that turned 5 we saw, he was taught and he was showed all the instruments why you should hate somebody. Everything was right in front of you. But in the movie, it also showed him with a pretty good balance. He really fell in love with the demonstrations. So he didn't really want to go out and kill anybody, but the hate was in his heart. But he understood there was something wrong.
So I think you bring up a lot of points. So I think we should dissect a couple of them. First of which is that Jews can be Palestinians. So just a slight explanation that this land issue is not between Palestinians and Jews. This is a colonial entity. It's called Zionism that's articulating itself in the form of a Jewish state. That's called Israel. And it took control in 1948, but well before that, since the late 1890s, it's been implementing its project to ethnically cleanse a native population of Palestinians that contains Jews, Christians, Muslims, atheists. It doesn't care, it doesn't discriminate. So that's number one. Number two, what's happening in Gaza right now is probably an unhinged articulation of the Zionist project. It's not some sort of a new ideology that's forming. It's just counting on the world's support to be on full swing and be able to get away with whatever it's getting away. It's been 81 days since aid trucks have been let into Gaza. And I don't think we should waste our time discussing these details because it's way too obvious to waste time on this. What's happening right now in Gaza is a shame on humanity. And it's showing us that sometimes truth cannot really stop the killing, but it will always delegitimize the killing. That's why we need to continue speaking truth. That's why we need to continue showing up, because it delegitimizes what's happening. It may not stop the bombs from falling, but those who are being killed will always be illegitimately killed. And that's why showing up and speaking truth wins us these things. And one more thing, I think when you woke up and saw that Palestine is no longer Palestine, it's the same time where a lot of people woke up and saw that Hawaii is no longer Hawaii. It's those entities being strengthened by the silence of many. Because our problem isn't that there isn't much truth out there. There is a lot of truth out there, but the small percentage of people that are not speaking truth are those who are economically benefited from hiding that truth. They're at the highest. And we are not going to give away our principles and compromise them. And that's why we're still showing up. So continue speaking truth, because that's something they will never ever dream of having.
I really feel bad, for the first-hand accounts, family accounts of you guys. So I have a lot of compassion for you. The difference between Gaza, Israel, and Hawaii is that Hawaiians have been there since time immemorial. Actually, so was Israel. Israel, the Canaanites were in Israel first, and now they want that land back. So it's not like they're just fighting over. They're both fighting for their land. You know what I mean? So it's very complicated, and it's very conflicting. And actually, I think the world, even like she said, the United States, Hawaii, we don't. King Kalakaua and the Queen Liliuokalani, they wanted neutral. They didn't want to pick side. They didn't want to go to war with Japan or World War II or any of that stuff, right? They just wanted neutral. So I sort of just keep that, like I'm neutral. Like I don't take anybody's side. I understand you're both fighting for your lands, your holy land, and it's this huge war, and I get it. You're both fighting for your land, your holy land. Yeah, that's the difference. Is like just recently, 2020, she said that it's just Palestinian boys throwing rocks. No, it's not. In 2023, that's why this whole thing got even worse, was because 1,300 Israelis were killed by Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist group. They literally, you gotta realize who's the terrorists, who's the extremists that love killing and bloodshed, and they're on both sides. You know what I mean? So it's not fair to say that it's all Israel, because it's not. And a couple just got assassinated in the U.S. embassy. You heard about that?
Oh yeah, I heard about
Yep.
that.
So it's not just one person, and it's not everybody. It's not all the Palestinians. It's like certain groups. It's certain groups like Hamas, and then Israel has, I'm sure, their like we saw in the film, like those guys that were like, I don't know what I even read like they were even like raping the kids and all this stuff. Israel's not obeying the Geneva Conventions either, so it's horrible. And I stand neutral. Like I'm not gonna get involved. And I'm seriously sick of it, and I want you guys to stop fighting, like seriously. I just want you guys to stop. But it's not gonna happen, right? I'm not gonna take sides.
Can I just say thank
But
you so much for the
I
question?
understand. I'm Native American, and we have our own issues, right? Our
Absolutely.
Holocaust that we went through. So everybody comes to Hawaii. The Micronesians come to Hawaii. They're fleeing nuclear war. They're fleeing this and that. And so Hawaii's like this. I don't know. I guess this runaway island, but for refugees and stuff. But that's my take on it. And I understand. I have compassion for you. I really do. So I'm not like.
Are you sure?
I'm not trying to. Yeah. I mean, I feel bad. I wouldn't want my family to die in war, right?
A war,
Not a war. Genocide.
fourth strongest military in the world.
Backed by the richest.
Why do you think that Hamas exists? They are the only resistance that the
The only
Palestinians
person that's
have.
right in this fight is whoever wants peace, and both don't.
That's not
So
true.
you guys aren't right, and they're not right.
Can I ask why you're here? Just out of curiosity.
You don't think I understand genocide? All my people, all my Native American people.
But if you're neutral, I'm just curious as to what brought you. Like, just curious.
Why does it affect me? Why does your problem affect me?
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking.
Because
Like,
you guys are here in Hawaii.
you don't need
Palestinians
to
are here.
be. You're getting upset, and I'm asking a very
I'm just-
genuine question.
I'm asking you a question.
This is the panel here.
I'm just pointing out the ignorant statements, all right? Hawaii is neutral. King Kalakaua is neutral. They don't take a stand. They don't take sides with Palestine or Israel. And you can't train here, Israel. We don't want any war here. We don't want the United States here warring, and we don't want Israel here. We don't want Palestine. We don't want you guys here warring. Okay? We want peace. That's what I'm saying. Right?
Healani, can I respond to
Go
that?
ahead. Don't misinform them, because I get
Stop.
it. You guys got
Stop.
your, but there's things.
Stop. This is Hawaii.
There's stuff that you're not saying,
Come on.
and that's wrong. That just because they throw rocks at, the Israelites, that they're gonna kill them because they're throwing. No, it's their holy land, right? Canaanites.
Did you not hear what he said about
They're taking their
Israel
holy land
not
back. It's a
existing?
fight over holy land.
I'm a Jewish
This
person.
is the United States holy land, yeah?
Can I
This is
speak?
Hawaii, yeah?
Can
You
I-
cannot make it the
Do
same,
you want to
right?
hear
That's
from
what
a
I'm saying.
Jewish? Would you like to
Okay?
hear from a Jewish
Why don't you
person?
This is
go?
Hawaii and I'm Hawaii,
I don't care.
and they are not misinforming us.
Yes, they are. They are.
Of course, because you're not Hawaiian.
Okay, for
Oh,
the
I have a degree in
sake,
Hawaiian studies. Unlike
sure,
you.
sure. For the sake of this comes up
Don't
from.
miseducate people. That's all I'm saying.
Do you want to engage in dialogue? You asked the question. Can I answer you as a
I don't
Palestinian?
care. Go ahead. You're gonna keep talking. Keep talking. But don't say ignorant things like that.
Well,
That's ignorant.
you're disrespecting us right
How am
now.
I disrespecting you?
You're saying ignorant things. We're not saying ignorant things. We're sharing life's experience right now. Our life's
Well,
experience.
seriously, but I'm just saying that that's not a true statement. What she said.
Okay, let me respond to you. First of
We
all,
saw it on camera. We literally saw it happening.
let me.
Enough of what?
You asked the question.
Yeah, we'll answer your question.
So,
I'm
so
just
you
going
want-
to
you
very
want
briefly answer
Palestinian
your
army
question.
Here? You want the Hamas here? Is that what you're saying?
Stop.
Do you? You want Hamas here in Hawaii?
Stop it. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the first point you brought up is that the
You want
Canaanites.
Hamas here in Hawaii?
Can we answer your question?
Okay, I'm not going to dignify this dialogue with a response because I'm wasting my time right now. Do you want to engage in a dialogue and hear the answer or not?
Just talk.
Okay, you're interrupting me, so I can't speak. I don't want to speak over you.
She's telling me to shut up, and I'm like, why? You want Hamas here? Is that what you want? You want more war?
So what you got from the film is that she wants
I'm
Hamas
seeing
here.
Israelis here crying about all their people dying.
Yeah.
Actually,
I don't know
let's
why
just do
Hawaiians
this.
in particular side with the Palestinians. I don't get it. I don't understand that.
Let's do this. First of all,
Jews are facing extinction
Excuse me.
and
She's
genocide. as well.
actually
I'm a Jewish person sitting in front of you.
Genocide.
Excuse
you
me.
know that I'm right, right?
I
You know I'm right.
I know that
Yeah?
there is a Jewish supremacy happening in the land of Palestine.
Really?
Yes, that in 1948, a Jewish supremacy was enacted, and there were Palestinians, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim, removed from their land. I know my lineage, my Jewish lineage, takes me to Russia.
Lower your voice.
I'm using a microphone.
I thought you were.
Excuse me, I'm using a microphone.
this is
Somebody move her. Can somebody
Why don't you
her
take the
home?
microphone out of her hand, huh? Why don't you take the microphone out of her hand?
So now you're silencing Jews? So now you're silencing Jews.
Shut up.
For Jews.
Call the cops. See what happens. Call the cops.
Well, I
See what
think
happens.
you all need to calm down, please.
We're having a
This is
simple
not a
discussion.
fight.
I'm not gonna let you ignorant people
No.
Get out.
misinform
Not
you.
everybody, don't throw
I am
around,
the-
but
I am in
please
charge
just
here.
calm
Get
down.
out.
Yes or no? You would like Hamas?
Yes,
Get out now.
Fine,
Get out.
I'll record you.
Get out.
What you think? Get out of my face. Get out of my face, Healani.
Oh, we try not to
You want to put this in front of the Navy? Put it in front of the Navy.
Can somebody record
Get out my
this?
face.
Can someone
Get out.
record her?
Get out of my face. Sit down and learn something for once instead of being so ignorant.
Get up and get out now.
Why? Just because I side with Israel? Because I care about Israel's
I
genocide?
thought you
Get
were
out
neutral.
now.
Yeah?
You shouldn't have came.
Why?
What the heck are you doing? Get out.
There is a fight about to
Why?
You're making people feel unsafe. Get out.
You're making yourself feel unsafe because you're ignorant.
I'm
Get-
confused.
get out.
You said Israel were Canaanites?
Yes,
How is
that's
that
their
not
holy land.
misinformation?
That's their holy land.
Yeah.
Don't do-
Israel
you guys are so ignorant.
it's not letting me even answer
Israel
that very
doesn't-
You
fast.
guys are all going to
doesn't
be ignorant,
discriminate
right?
from
It's
the
a holy
Canaanites.
land to the Jews.
For
I'm
that-
a Jewish person
for
sitting
that
right here.
It's a
particular
holy war. Get out of my face.
read the
Get out
Bible.
of my
That
face.
particular people
You take
that
the mic
Moses
out of
took to
her
the
hand,
Holy Land,
right?
Get your
those
stuff.
were
Get out of here
promised
I'm not
that
a part
land.
of
That's
your
it.
little Kahului. Yes, right?
If you want to
I
talk
have my
about
own
ignorance,
representation. I got my own views. I was in the Middle East. Were you in the Middle East for 3 years? Huh?
We're at the,
You seen those little kids
I
throwing
don't know.
throwing rocks in your truck?
Shut up and get out.
Yeah, shut up.
Shut up.
Ignorant.
Get the heck out of here.
I
No.
did have settlers
You.
throwing rocks at my head.
You.
please, okay?
So,
Everybody has a position. Everybody has.
I'm not leaving.
This is a
A
church,
few.
please
Well, then we're
go.
done.
Let's
Yeah, because you can have your
let's
way.
at least
Ruin it for
allow
everybody,
things.
yeah?
Let's at least
Ruin
allow
it for
people to
everybody.
discuss things politely.
You came here to yell
Just-
at people.
No matter what.
Just to clarify something, please.
Bully, you're a bully.
The,
You hear the old
just to clarify something,
This is
please.
my place.
Yeah,
You
but
get
you
out.
can't
If
do-
I tell you to get out,
This is
get out.
Kalakaua, Queen Liliuokalani.
This is Hawaii.
You are
Remember
occupied.
where you are.
You are
Calm
occupied.
down, calm down.
You are occupied. You can't send a little stupid officer from Hilo to come falsely arrest me, and I'll get him freaking
Calm down.
financially fired.
Calm down. Calm down.
This is crazy.
There's no reason for us to be arguing.
So the presence of Jews in the land of Palestine probably extends 200 to 300 years in a span of thousands of years.
Am I in your space?
Who are we to
Get
fixate?
out of here. Grab your shit and get out.
Who are we to fixate on that slip of history
We're having a simple conversation.
and say
You don't
that those
you don't
particular...
discuss the truth because you're ignorant. That's why. Ignorance.
I think an academic and a civil dialogue
I will
requires...
never. You know what? I will never.
Get your shit and get out of here.
Shut the fuck up!
Hey!
I will never side with your fucking Palestinian! Fucking Hamas! You're a fucking terrorist! You fucking get it?
Relax.
Hawaii doesn't fucking side with Hamas!
Alright.
You understand?
Alright.
Do you?
Calm down.
Alright.
Calm down. Calm down.
I know where the fuck I am!
Calm down.
Southern Melanesans! You're not the only race that got displaced from your fucking home!
Calm down. Okay. There's no reason.
Get your hands off me!
You're right.
Fuck off me!
You're right. Get the fuck out.
This is a
Hey,
place of.
But we're your.
Get the fuck out of my face! Look at you! You can't even fucking talk!
This is the face of oppression. What we're witnessing right now is the face of oppression. Right now.
What's the face of oppression?
The face of oppression is not being able to engage in civil dialogue.
Simple dialogue.
Why are you gonna take the take the mic away from him, alright? Not me, stupid ass.
Keep her here.
You know, unhinged people will continue to show their faces, and this is a pretty prime example of what it looks like to be an oppressive person, regardless of your background, and that's what's showing right now, unfortunately.
Sorry, Mom. I had nothing to her.
Sorry.
Sit here.
That's okay to have
Come.
an opinion.
Come.
Yeah, but there is no opinion when it comes to a genocide.
She's coming.
There is no such thing as two sides when it comes to a genocide.
I'm not saying that.
I'm so
So
sorry.
she can ask
She's
and
left, just
express
so we know.
any opinion that she has. However, she has to respect the dialogue and the space that she's a part of.
And there's no
And
opinion
that
in
did
this.
not happen.
Yeah, there's not an opinion in this. These are facts.
That's right.
And I don't think that any of us are here to talk to people that know that are not looking to learn more,
Yeah,
right?
but you know, she served in the Middle East. That's her PTSD. So.
It's the second she said that, I could understand.
So her presence in our lands was serving for the military, and that's the point of view that she's going to share with us. Healani, would you like to share a couple of words on this, or are you okay?
Oh, yeah, I'm okay. I've been through many.
Because I think it's important to hear from you as well.
I just want to apologize for that.
Don't apologize.
You know, and this is what we have to go through all the time when we speak truth. Speaking truth itself is so dangerous. Like, it's so powerful, right? It's powerful. That's why we need to keep speaking it. This is why we need to keep speaking it.
Threatens everybody who doesn't.
Yeah. Auntie, you want to say a few words? Because we need kupuna words right now.
I do. And
That was terrible. She had no reason.
aloha, I'm alias Aisha. I grew up in this town, and as a child, I had to listen to machine guns and bazookas every single time the military did a training session. I live in Hawaii, and every morning I get the Star Spangled Banner shoved down my throat as if it was in my living room. I have called every possible thing. They tell me the controls are at Hickam Air Force Base. You know, there's a lot of kind of violence. I also spent time in Spain when Franco was still in power. And I know what it's like to run from the guard, the civil guard, to dodge the bombs. And so, there's violence that affects us in so many ways at many different levels. And when you're in that violence day after day after day, it's, you know, you have nothing else except what you have. And it's no different. And, you know, excuse me if you don't agree with it, but it's no different having to listen to that every single day than it is to actually be running and hearing the machine guns and stuff going off as a child. That you're so conditioned to listening to that when you're in a country where it's really happening around you, it's familiar already. And that's sad. You know, the violence in Hawaii may not be the guard and the dropping and the machine guns in the streets, but the violence has always been here for us, even in the ways that may seem more subtle to other people. And we are of the land. We don't live on the land. We don't just love the land. We are from the land. Our genealogies take us back to the land itself. And so that is the difference. And you know, you don't have to apologize for her, Healani. We do not have to apologize for other people's things. And I'm not making excuses for her, but we know what indoctrination does. So if she did serve in the Middle East and that's the result, that's the military oppression. And so yeah, you know, Pahakuloa was like, you know, the little victories is what keeps you going. But you know, I want to speak to that thing about the caring, because what can we do so far away? We can care. And not only that, we care about ourselves and the quality of life that we live. We care about the fact that we can continue to speak the truth. When we were on the Mauna, it was like, okay, so what do we do? And my word was, we keep talking so that should any other action be taken against the Mauna, Mauna Kea is on everybody's mind. Mauna Kea on your mind. So that the minute it's brought to light, it's like, oh yeah, that's what they're doing in Hawaii. You know, it's education, it's part of education. And it's the courage to speak the truth in light of this, right? Somebody comes at you and they're aggressive and you back down so you don't speak the truth. You know, sometimes I feel like Fatima, I don't think, yeah, you know, this has been going on for too long. It's gotta go more than that. But you know, we all have opportunities in our daily life to stand for the truth and to continue being who we are and what we believe in. And the opportunity for us, even just to gather and to share, that strengthens the Palestinian community. It strengthens me as a Hawaiian. But I'm not just Hawaiian, I'm Muslim. And you know, I was going to ask if you could speak to that, because I believe that Islam does play a role in the resistance of the people in Palestine. And that understanding, that connection to the land, that connection to nature, that connection of how you interact and respond to a person that you've never met before, that is what makes the difference. Because that is what allows us to continue to be human in the midst of all the dehumanization that happens when there is an oppression, when there is colonization that has taken place. And so we, in a way, we're lucky. We had this happen because it's a learning moment. Yeah, everything is a teaching moment, everything is a learning moment. And although it kind of, it's scary. But when you've been around enough of that, it's not that you're immune to it, but we have to continue to live. The Hawaiian word is ola. And so, a lot of us, when we see each other, when we greet each other, when we say goodbye, when something is happening, we say ola. And we just wish and hope that they continue to have that life force in them that allows them to show aloha, that allows them to interact in that way, that allows us to be sympathetic. I'm not gonna solve all the problems of water. We tried, we really tried, but now our friend doesn't even have a place to get water in Palestine. We can send him all the money we want, and he has no possibility of getting it. So then what does that do, And although this is not a religious thing, to me religion is your way of life. And it comes down to how you think and how you see. And that aloha, or that manner with which we interact with each other, is so important. Sometimes people see our kupuna as if they're passive. They are not passive. They just pick and choose their paths in a way that they are still able to act in the world. Yeah? So, I would say that's unfortunate, but everything is a teaching moment, So when he said that, it's like, yeah, everybody's mind should be thinking, what do I know? What do I believe? I love this gentleman's comment, because we're in history, unless you've been following this all along, where and when did it change? But in the United States, the education is so censored that we don't know. And what uncensored me as a person was living in fascist Spain so that I could understand. And when I saw my friend beat up in a hospital because she and her mother were window shopping in the wrong place at the wrong time, something changed in me. When I walked the streets of the Philippines and Hong Kong, and I saw them walking with the semi-automatic rifles, and then I realized that's what I had heard my whole childhood. It changes. So as long as we can continue to grow and change, and we maintain that human element, we're good. We're good because nobody can take that away, no matter what. So, sorry, I get off the soapbox.
Police is here, so let's attend to that. And thank you everybody for coming here and sharing this space. I think do not be intimidated by the acts of the oppression, and continue speaking truth and continue showing up, because that's the thing they fear the absolute most, and you saw that in your own eyes. So let's continue speaking truth and showing up for humanity, because what's life without dignity?
Before anybody leaves, we need anybody who had it on their phone, recorded it, record everything. Everybody in here before they leave, whether I could not record anything, anybody up there, okay? If you need the name and everything else.
This is her phone here, right?
Yeah.
For some reason, you end up in court. Okay?